Scribd Coach.
Welcome to What's Holding You Back? Breaking Through Fear and Insufficiency to Achieve Your Goals, an audio course from Scribd Coach. This is Melissa Hanson on behalf of Lauren Shippy. We are here to do the work necessary to get clear on what is holding you back and to make a plan to overcome it. That work will become the foundation for growth in your life and in your business. When I say business in this course, I'm also referring to causes, nonprofits, and projects that you are creating, working on, leading, or supporting. These are all extensions of your personal brand, the person you are, and what is most important to you. The principles we are going to discuss here are ones that I've worked through personally over 10 years. I'm here to share them with you so you can clear the way for building your business. In order to clear the way for your success, you need to know who you are. You need to understand your identity and how that identity translates into what you do in your business and how you relate to others. You'll do a lot of identity exploration in this course, and you'll discover some powerful insights into your holdbacks as well as how you can break through them. I first want to congratulate you for being here. You're doing the hard work that most people won't do. You're making choices to overcome holdbacks in your life. Nothing worthwhile is easy, but the fact that you're here means you're ready to make a breakthrough. Clarity of vision is the key to reaching any objective you have in life. What we want to do here is clear out anything that is standing in the way of you getting that crystal clear vision for your life and for your business. When we can call out the things that are holding us back in our lives, recognize them honestly, and overcome them, then we become a game changer, not just an outperformer. I see this all the time in my work with clients. I'm the founder of Storywork, a consultancy that helps founders, entrepreneurs, and organizations find and execute their strategy to grow their businesses. My area of expertise and my personal passion is identifying the underlying dynamics of people, products, and experiences, and leveraging them to create new markets and opportunities. I'm an MBA, the former COO of multiple companies and a lover of team whiteboard sessions. I'm also a proud wife and mom of 2. The holdbacks that I'm going to guide you out of today are ones that I've worked through personally, and I want to share the map I used, the same one I use with my clients to help you lay a strong foundation for yourself. Because when you become solid as a person and as a leader, then your business becomes solid too. In this course, we will dive deep into what I call the big 2 holdbacks, fear and insufficiency. We'll examine what they look and feel like, and then we'll look at 3 ways we can break free from those holdbacks. We'll also talk about how different elements of your identity are connected to your holdbacks and your ability to break through them. At the end of this course, you're going to have a solid strategy to combat any holdbacks and lay the foundation for growth. So welcome. I can't wait to get started. Remember that getting clarity is crucial to moving yourself and your business forward. What are the obstacles that are holding you back from getting to the next level in your business, career, and life? If you give yourself a moment to think, you might find that the list gets overwhelmingly long and you're not sure where to start. Maybe you know there's more work to be done internally, but you aren't sure what that work looks like. In this course, I want to help you narrow down that list of obstacles to just 2 things: fear and insufficiency. This course is designed to help you create self-awareness around these 2 things that are holding you back in so many ways and to guide you through a process that creates self-awareness and new realizations that lead to success. In this unit, we'll discuss and describe the big 2 challenges that are so often holding us back: fear and insufficiency. Recognizing the big 2 is huge for our growth because often our experience with fear and insufficiency is not a conscious one. That makes them very hard to move through. So we want to bring our consciousness to the subconscious mind. We want to gain clarity on these holdbacks and learn how to overcome them. Okay, let's start to unpack these big two holdbacks a little bit more. The first of the big two holdbacks is fear. You might be struggling actively with fear right now, or you might not be particularly struck by it. Fear has a habit of sneaking up on us, especially when we're going through periods of change. So, even if this doesn't resonate with you in this moment, remember it, because it might creep up on you later. For example, a new job, new responsibility, or new threshold of success can all bring new fears with them. So if you don't think these holdbacks are hurting you right now, consider this a good opportunity to rethink and reset. We need to be a strategy warrior, an overcomer, so we're thinking about these things proactively. We're always creating new things as an entrepreneur. And when you're doing that, when you're in the midst of change or reaching new heights, there are always new fears that come up. When I first launched Storywork, I went through a period where I did feel afraid. I had launched multiple startups at that point, yet I still felt afraid because this was new territory for me. I didn't know yet where I was going or if I was valuable enough. Of course, I still have moments of being afraid or unsure, but now I know how to do it anyway. I've learned how to go ahead and do it while afraid. How can you recognize fear? Fear leads to feeling paralyzed or foggy about the outcome of doing something and taking action. Don't confuse fear with burnout. We can sometimes feel paralyzed or foggy because we're just exhausted, or we need to take time to reflect. If you're wondering, is this fear? Ask yourself, is this an intentional moment, or is this an intended passive moment of inaction? If it's passive, it's likely that you're walking in fear. The problem is when we allow fear in. We allow space for ourselves to not operate in our purpose or walk in our purpose. In other words, it can be a gateway to letting distractions or other things in that make it more challenging to achieve our goals. What we're doing today is calling you out of that, because you are meant to do the work that matters, and that will determine where you go in life. We need to learn how to continuously push through those moments so we can achieve our vision. When we do the foundational work in breaking fear, we can make sure that we're not allowing this to happen. The second of the big two is insufficiency. When we feel insufficient, we don't feel qualified to do a particular thing. For example, you could feel insufficient when reaching a new height or a new level. Or you might feel insufficient when reaching out to certain people. We can experience insufficiency consciously when we feel unprepared or unequipped for the work that lies ahead. Interestingly, insufficiency often comes from conscious or subconscious comparison taking place. Comparison and insufficiency are directly related. When we compare ourselves to others, we believe that we may be insufficient. Let's get clear here. We all, every single one of us, feel insufficient at times. If you think of the most have-it-all-together person you know, they feel insufficient sometimes too. We just have different ways of expressing it, and we're all in different phases of insufficiency. So they may not struggle with exactly what you struggle with, and they may not ever let on. That might be because of their personality type, how they learn to deal with feeling that way, or other factors. But we all feel it. Comparison robs us of joy, and it robs us of operating in who we were uniquely created to be. The more people have the chance to genuinely see you and know you, the more they connect with you, which ultimately leads to clients. The more you walk in who you are, you and the people around you will see that. So let's bring that comparison that we practice, whether subconscious or conscious, into the light so that it can't continue to hinder us from walking in our identity. Because the world needs you. It needs your work, your words, your thoughts, your kindness, and your impact. If you stay held down by fear or comparison or past struggles, You don't get to serve others in the way that you were created to serve. The freer you get from all of this, the more you can start to do the things that matter. We're on a mission to create freedom. We're going to be so free by the end of this that no one can keep up with us, because we're going to have not only clarity, but also the plans and strategy to help us achieve success. In the next unit, we'll continue on that path to look at 3 different things that can help us break free from the holdbacks of fear and insufficiency. Before we go, let's do an exercise. In this exercise, we're going to identify your triggers for the big 2, fear and insufficiency. Write down 2 to 3 situations or statements that trigger fear for you. When do you feel paralyzed or foggy? Now identify 2 to 3 things that make you feel insufficient. Where do you tend to compare yourself to other people or other businesses? Make sure to write it down, because we'll use this work later on in the course. I'll see you in the next unit, where we'll dive more specifically into the holdback of fear, and we'll explore 3 tools that really help break fear. I can't wait. It takes a lot to start a new business. You have to identify a need, identify what it is you can contribute to that need, and identify your purpose. For those of you with entrepreneurial mindset, though, you've got this. You know the need, you know your purpose, and you've started down this path already. However, the big challenge for most, if not all of us, is the fear that sets in. That fear might cause you to worry that you won't be able to achieve your purpose or that you won't be able to meet the need. You might wonder things like, is what I have valuable? Do people want what I have? Maybe you are surprised by this fear when it creeps up because you've done other difficult things without having to struggle with it. Again, though fear has a way of sneaking up on you in times of change, transition, new heights, new achievements, or new ventures. For example, when I launched Storywork, I went through a period where I felt afraid. Keep in mind, I had already launched multiple startups, and I had experience running an office, yet I still felt afraid. This was new territory for me, and I wasn't completely sure yet where I was going, what others thought about it, or how valuable what I had to contribute was. I don't feel the same way anymore about myself, my company, or my brand, because of what I went through and how I learned to step into my identity. Whether you're actively struggling with fear right now or not, let's dive into what is happening with fear and how we can overcome it. Fear is tricky. However, as we learn how to call it out and practice calling it out, it's kind of like taking the monster out from under the bed. Once we uncover it, once we bring it out of the dark and into the light, it's not so scary anymore. Often, you can trace the root of your fear back to experiences you've had. That's why it's so necessary to work through your own emotional baggage in order for your business to succeed. That might mean seeking counseling or doing whatever else you need to find personal healing. I've seen in my clients, when they finally identify and call out the root of their fear, they're able to find that healing and build the momentum they need to move forward in their business. What we most need to understand about fear is that fear is a liar. It creates a fog of confusion that makes us feel stuck and stops us from doing what we are meant to do. It paralyzes us and tries to bring us down, but we can't let it do that. Fear can also be a gateway to distraction, because while we're sitting back paralyzed and waiting, we're creating space for distractions to enter in and keep us from walking in our purpose. Note that this kind of paralysis is absolutely not the same thing as rest. There is a big difference between waiting out of fear and taking necessary rest. It is essential to rest at the right times. There is also a difference between allowing the confusion that is created by fear to hold you back and recognizing when you need to pause and reflect on your identity, purpose, and strategy. It's important to differentiate those pauses and ask yourself why. You need to have confidence that you know when you're taking an intentional break because you need to get recentered, as opposed to when you're just not moving forward because you're in a fog of fear. Today, we're going to call you out of that fog. We're going to be able to unmask fear for what it is, call it out, and get on with doing the amazing work you're meant to do. In this unit, we'll learn about 3 specific things that can help break fear and get you back on a path of growth. These 3 things are perspective, vulnerability, and self-awareness. As we go, we'll talk about several ways to actively harness these things and use them to break fear and fuel your work. The first tool we have for breaking fear and its lies is perspective. Fear focuses on you, your insecurities, your image, the risks you're taking. So much of our fear is related to ourselves and how we will be perceived by others. When we focus too much on ourselves, we feed those feelings. If you can get perspective on the greater vision instead, the purpose for your business, the why behind your business, that breaks fear. Getting perspective allows you to zoom out and refocus on the greater vision of what you're trying to deliver, or the larger goal that you want to accomplish. When you remember why you're doing what you're doing, or when you remember that others need you and what you have to offer, fear can fade into the background. Why? Because this takes the focus off of you and puts it back on others, especially those that you want to serve, your clients and future clients. Ask yourself, what's a one-liner that summarizes why you're doing what you're doing? For me, this one-liner is, be a game changer, not just an outperformer. This is crucial to the impact I want to have in life and what I want to help others do. Identify what that one-liner is for you and use it as your fuel. You might find that putting it somewhere where you see it regularly can help you refocus when you're stuck. The second tool we're going to talk about that breaks fear is vulnerability. When we share our insights or fears with others, we free people up to share their own thoughts and fears. You might be surprised to find out how many of those thoughts you share. This allows us to have moments of connection with others, and those connections lead to more insights. We're creating a positive cycle that can not only reduce fear, but also improve our work. As we practice sharing and being vulnerable on the regular, we are practicing what it feels like to go afraid. This means that we are taking small steps and creating habits that allow us to move forward and do things that we know we need to do, even while we're feeling fear. This is really important to recognize. We're not here to magically make fear disappear. However, we can learn to go afraid and move forward despite fear. Being vulnerable exercises and strengthens the muscle of going afraid. In general, practicing vulnerability on the regular makes overcoming holdbacks easier and easier the more you do it. Brené Brown talks a lot about this. As we exercise the going afraid muscle in small ways, like sharing something a little vulnerable, the muscle gets stronger and helps us move forward on the big things that we're afraid of too. Being vulnerable does not necessarily mean sharing your life story with everyone. It's more likely to look like sharing with an accountability group about some challenges you're having in trying to improve your business or make your product better. We'll talk more about accountability groups in the next unit. Vulnerability delivers moments that break fear. For more insight on this, I'd recommend reading The Power of Moments by Dan Heath and Chip Heath. It talks about how we have the opportunity through our work to create moments that matter for other people too. One tip that I'd like to share when it comes to being vulnerable regularly is to track your progress. It might sound silly, but it's part of creating a habit. Try keeping a calendar and checking off a day every time you are able to share something that expresses some vulnerability. You can also keep a mason jar that you drop a paperclip into every time you exercise that vulnerability muscle. The third tool we'll explore for breaking fear is self-awareness. On every level, self-awareness unmasks fear. If you call things out, they can't weigh you down as much anymore. Calling out fear might look like speaking it out loud, telling a friend or your accountability group, writing it down, or otherwise getting it out there in the open and acknowledging it. Think about the last time you were afraid to say something, but it finally came out in some way. Did you feel a weight lifted? Especially for high achievers like me and like many of you, we can be shy or even stubborn about this. This is true for me. You might feel shame or guilt about acknowledging a feeling or a thought, but you know there's something you have to do about it. What does it feel like for you when you finally get it out there? For me, every time I practice this, I feel so much better. In fact, I feel so much better than I did before I finally got it out in the open that I wonder why it took me so long to do it. The more you express, the more freedom you create for yourself. To help us create more self-awareness of our fear, we can use a simple but powerful exercise called the 5 whys. The 5 whys guides us as we unpack our fear and make a plan to work through it. This is a version of the exercise that Ash Maurya from LeanStack created. I recommend journaling through this process. Writing your thoughts down helps create self-awareness because it offers time for reflection. Journaling takes you through your thoughts and sheds light on your ideas and feelings, eventually leading to realizations that create self-awareness and perspective. The 5 whys exercise can be used to help you unmask what you are afraid of doing. They can be used in terms of starting a new business, like I often do with my clients, but they can also be used in many other aspects of your life. That's why you should return to them anytime you feel stuck in a fog of fear. The 5 whys can draw you out of that fog and confusion. What you'll do first in this exercise is consider something you're hitting a wall with. Write that thing down. Maybe it's a decision in your business, or maybe it's something to do with your personal life. Whatever it is, it's the biggest roadblock that you're hitting right now in terms of fear. It's the things you aren't doing because you are afraid. After you write that down, you're going to answer the question why 5 times. In other words, you're going to try to get to the root of this fear and figure out where it's stemming from. Often we misidentify the cause of our fear. We think it's one thing, something we can see on the surface, but in actuality, it's something much deeper that we need to recognize. We can think of these cases like the layers of an onion. You need to peel back the layers to really get at the core cause of your fear. It might be something that wounded us in the past, or it might be a damaging pattern in a relationship that is triggered by the thing we're afraid of. Here are a couple of simple examples. You might find that you're afraid of marketing your business and really getting your name out there. One why could be that you don't know anything about social media. Another why might be that you're afraid of messing up with clients. Writing down these whys is so powerful in part because being able to pinpoint the causes of our fear and write them down allows us to see them in a different light. We might recognize that many of them aren't relevant, and the ones that are relevant have action steps that we can take to address them. So finally, look at each of those whys, and unless you recognize them as something that isn't relevant and needs to be sent packing, write down 3 to 5 action steps to address them. With these steps, you're telling yourself, this is what I can do to combat these fears, which is really powerful. In the social media example, your plan might be to watch YouTube videos about using social media, to appoint a mentor to help you, or to read 2 articles a day about social media strategy. In the case of fear around messing up with clients, your action steps might be finding someone who works really well with clients and asking them questions about their philosophy. Or it might include creating a test group with 5 to 10 friends to practice your interactions with clients. Whatever action steps you create, make sure to connect them to your larger purpose. Remember why you're doing this, what your purpose is in your business. When you remember the greater purpose of it all, you can attach that purpose to breaking through these holdbacks. And as you break through your holdbacks, as you take down these roadblocks in your way, you'll be able to serve people in a more effective way, which will result in greater success. It really is all about that, serving others. That's what will make you successful. If you've been following along, join me as we wrap up this unit. If you haven't been following along, take a minute to pause and complete the 5 whys exercise now. Even if you just set a timer and work on this exercise for 5 minutes, what you'll uncover is incredibly powerful. It's something you can always keep in your back pocket and revisit when you feel paralyzed by fear. Let's end this unit with another exercise. Choose one of the 3 breakthroughs we discussed: perspective, vulnerability, or awareness. Pick one to focus on this week. Then choose a way that you're going to reinforce that breakthrough for yourself. Set a goal around it. Your goal might be to commit to journaling for 5 minutes every day to increase self-awareness. It might be to create an accountability group and share something about yourself that exercises vulnerability. It might be to work together with a mastermind to evaluate your purpose and recommit to it so you can have greater perspective. Or it might be to talk to a counselor so you can unpack and heal from experiences that have bred fear in your life. Whatever your goal is, write it down and commit now to do it this week so you can begin breaking fear and moving forward. In the next unit, we'll take a closer look at insufficiency and talk about how we can break that holdback as well. I can't wait. One of my favorite quotes comes from Jhumpa Lahiri, and it goes, "I think that what I have been truly searching for as a person, as a writer, as a thinker, as a daughter, is freedom. That is my mission, a sense of liberty. The liberty that comes not only from self-awareness, but also from letting go of many things that weigh us down." What an insightful quote. What are some of the things that weigh you down? In what ways are you perhaps feeling weighed down by holdbacks and by life in general? Of course, we don't want to identify these weights simply to give ourselves license to complain or feel sorry for ourselves. We do want to give ourselves license, though, to grieve when necessary, to receive or offer forgiveness, to heal, and just to move forward. I think that's really important for us to be able to learn, to live in healthy spaces with each other. Remember that our mission here is to create freedom. We are here to liberate ourselves from things that weigh us down and stop us from doing what we're meant to do. This means that we're going to be dreamers and visionaries, but we're also going to have the tools, routines, and habits we need to keep up with our dreams and goals. Okay, now let's look more closely at this holdback of insufficiency. We encounter insufficiency when we feel unprepared for something or unequipped to do something. Sometimes it's a conscious feeling, but it can be subconscious as well. In the cases of subconscious insufficiency, remember that we're trying to call the subconscious holdbacks out into the conscious realm so that we can recognize them and deal with them. We've already talked in the first unit about how insufficiency is rooted in comparison. We might be comparing ourselves to our coworkers, to others in the field, or to competitors. We might compare ourselves to people we think have made it, especially if we think we aren't where we should be. When we compare ourselves to others, or when we compare our business ideas to other businesses, we often come away with feelings of insufficiency. It's important to acknowledge that we all feel insufficient in some areas at some times. No one is perfect, and it's impossible to always feel prepared and equipped for every challenge or opportunity that you encounter. Even those people that you are comparing yourself to, the ones you think aren't struggling, They are struggling with something. You're never going to get to a point of perfection where you just don't experience insufficiency at all anymore. However, if you can learn to think and talk about your insufficiency in healthier ways and process those thoughts and emotions, that's a realistic goal you can work toward that will stop insufficiency from holding you back. Remember the critically important truth that there is only one you. No one will do things quite like you. Not even those who are in your field. Not even your coworkers and competitors. Not even those that you think have made it in a way that you want to make it. None of them will carry out your ideas in the way you would if you give yourself space to be your genuine self. I want you to take a moment and consider that. What are some things that you do differently from others? You may think that everyone else thinks the way you do, but trust me, they don't. So what do you do and create that's different? Once you understand the uniqueness of who you are, as well as the brand that you've created or given your support to, comparison with others becomes irrelevant. The more you clear out comparison and walk in who you are, the more you'll be able to share with the world what it needs specifically and uniquely from you. The world is waiting for you to get clear on this so they can benefit from you and your work. Finding out who you are is what will fuel your personal and entrepreneurial success. So what breaks comparison? And by extension, insufficiency. As it turns out, the same 3 tools that we use to break through fear can also be channeled to break through comparison and insufficiency. As we go through them again, pay attention to how they can work specifically and differently to address comparison and insufficiency. First, perspective. Sometimes you need to zoom out to the larger message or goal you are trying to deliver or accomplish. Remember that if you funnel your energy into your greater purpose, you take the focus off of you and put it on those that you serve in your business. This cuts out the tendency to compare yourself to competitors or other businesses. Your vision is on what you can do for those you serve, and you don't have room to worry about what others are doing. Next, vulnerability. Practice vulnerability in a safe space, like an accountability group, which we'll talk more about in just a moment. Remember that challenge to check off days on a calendar every time you share something vulnerable? Here's another reason to do it. As you share with others, share your thoughts, your struggles, and also your insights and vision, and particularly as you share with those who fuel you and act as encouragers for you, you will discover the comparisons that others struggle with as well. You'll also open up room for others to share their challenges and insights in a way that encourages and helps you. As you find out that others are also experiencing insufficiency, that opens your eyes in a way that discourages damaging comparisons. The connection and vulnerability will allow you to eradicate the shame surrounding your insufficiency so you can process it in a healthy way and actually move into a space of useful action around your insufficiency. Instead of feeling stuck or ashamed that you think you're not prepared, you'll be able to say, okay, what can I do about this? How can I get better prepared for this? It's only as you discover those comparisons that you can deal with them, and sometimes it takes sharing with someone else to make that discovery. And finally, self-awareness. We know that on every level, awareness unmasks fear. Awareness also unmasks insufficiency on every level. As we become aware of the ways that we compare ourselves to others and how those comparisons create feelings of insufficiency, we are empowered to do something about it. We're going to return now to the 5 whys exercise to become more self-aware of our tendencies toward comparison and insufficiency. This will help us uncover the roots of our insufficiencies, just as we did with our fears, so we can make a plan to address them. Let's think of some of the ways you feel insufficient. Start with the top 3 to 5 ways. You might better recognize that insufficiency as feeling unqualified or incapable or not ready for something. Now, let's get to the bottom of those insufficiencies. You need to figure out, for example, which ones are conscious and which ones are subconscious, so that you can call the subconscious ones out, recognize them, and deal with them. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What is the root of this feeling? Where does it stem from? You'll also need to figure out what triggers comparison for you, so that you can root out sources in your life that are holding you back. That might sound obvious, but rarely do we really take account of what fills our time. There are so many distractions we are bombarded with on a daily basis, and we want to make sure that we are filling our time with things that fuel us. In fact, I have a client and friend who found out that she was only able to really move forward in starting her business when she took a long break from social media. Comparison was fueling such debilitating insufficiency for her that she needed to root out that comparison altogether for a while before she was ready to walk in who she was and move forward with her goals. You might not need a social media break, but what other distractions are sapping your time and energy, and worse, fueling comparison and insufficiency? We're now going to move into the action items that can help us address the insufficiencies we identified and the whys behind them. As we do this, I encourage you again to write down your thoughts. Putting them on paper and making them real is powerful for calling them out and addressing them specifically. Also, let's remember here that we are trying to cultivate a mindset. This is not a one-time exercise to fix all your problems. Rather, you are practicing skills that you want to become habitual as you encounter and overcome fears and insufficiencies on a regular basis. Again, we're connecting back to perspective, vulnerability, and self-awareness, the same things that break fear and also break insufficiency. First, let's remember your one-liner. What's one thing, the one line that really gets you excited about what you're doing? For me, when I hear, be a game changer, not an outperformer, that gets me excited because it gets at the heart of what I want to help people do. What is it for you? Write it down and put it everywhere so you can see and refocus on it often. The second action item to connect to these insufficiency breakers is journaling. As we said earlier, journaling allows you to sort through your thoughts and feelings. It can be an outlet for vulnerability, and it can be the first step in sharing those vulnerabilities. It also just allows you to work through thoughts and feelings in a productive way. The third way that you can break insufficiency is by forming an accountability and mastermind group. These are the people that can help you become self-aware. Look for trusted friends that are also on the journey to becoming game changers. They don't have to be in the same field or practice as you, just as long as they are working toward the same goal of breaking out of holdbacks to be successful. You want people with similar perspectives and mindsets. With these people, you'll be able to honestly share your thoughts and get feedback and encouragement. Personally, I have an accountability group, and I also have a mastermind group. Each group meets about once a month. I've seen drastic effects from doing that. I can bring things to them when I'm stuck and know that they'll be my real and honest mirror. I trust them to tell me like it is, not to sugarcoat things, and I find their thoughts really helpful. So now, it's time for another exercise. Assuming you've been following along and doing this iteration of the 5 whys exercise with me, I want you to pick one of the 3 breakthrough tools, perspective, vulnerability, or awareness, and create a goal to practice that muscle. You might need to recommit to the goal you set at the end of the last unit. You might need to repurpose that goal to address insufficiency, specifically instead of fear. Or you might feel ready to set a new goal. Remember some of the action items we discussed that cultivate these breakthroughs. You can create your goals around these action items. For example, you might set a goal to identify a mastermind or accountability group and try to set up a recurring monthly meeting with them. You might use a calendar or another immediate reward system, like putting paper clips in a mason jar, an example that I used earlier, to create a habit of sharing vulnerability. You might refine a journaling goal so that instead of saying, "I'll write in my journal for 5 minutes a day," you now say, "I'll spend 5 minutes journaling about obstacles that I encountered today and how I overcame them." Or you might set a goal to write your one-liner down and post it several places around your home or office space. Whatever goal you set, as I reminded you in the exercise from the last unit, be sure it is connected to your overarching purpose and your vision for yourself and your business. Also, make sure that it is specific and trackable enough to stay committed. The consistency that you create around these new breakthrough habits is a crucial element in their ability to help you succeed. In the following unit, we're going to preview the elements of your identity that will help you understand and break through your holdbacks more deeply. I can't wait. In large part, being able to break through fear and insufficiency and any other holdbacks that you have is dependent on your ability to understand your identity. You need to know who you are and walk in it. Your identity is all about who you are, where you come from, and what makes you who you are. Understanding your identity is the fuel behind your breakthroughs. I have a much deeper discussion of this in my Strategy Master course, but I'm going to give an overview of it here to show you how it is all connected. Learning who you are and how to walk in that identity will enable you to break fear and insufficiency. You'll be able to break through fear because you know what makes you afraid and why, and you know how to overcome that. You'll be able to break through insufficiency because you know what makes you, and by extension your business, uniquely valuable so that you can avoid comparing yourself to others and feeding insufficiency. In order to do this, in this unit we will briefly identify the 4 elements that make up identity. Understanding these elements will help you better understand yourself and how you live your life, relate to others, and run your business. As we discuss them, we'll talk a little about how to utilize each of these elements to break through fear and insufficiency. The first thing that makes up who you are is your personality and gifts. There are many different personality tests out there that aim to help people understand their personalities, what comes natural to them, and what they tend to struggle with. The one I recommend is called the Enneagram and can be found online if you search for the Enneagram Institute. The Enneagram delineates 9 personality types: the reformer, the helper, the achiever, the individualist, the investigator, the loyalist, the enthusiast, the challenger, and the peacemaker. Understanding your personality type can give you a clearer and more realistic idea of your natural gifts, what you have to offer to your business so you can play to your strengths. On the flip side, you can also get an honest idea of the things that tend to be difficult for you, personality-wise, and this can help you round out those deficiencies. How do you round out weaknesses or negative tendencies inherent in your personality? Sometimes you round out your weak points by just being aware of them and being intentional about areas that need improvement. You can also account for those weaknesses by surrounding yourself with people who naturally have gifts in the areas where you lack. The second element of identity that we will examine is experiences. Once you've laid the foundation by learning about your personality, it's time to look at the things you've been through that have further shaped you. These include both your triumphs and your hardships. Your experiences have shaped you in many important ways. Understanding how you've been shaped by both the positive and negative things you have been through is critical for understanding why you do certain things that you do. This understanding will also help you communicate better with your team. Let's pause for a moment and remember how this is all connected to overcoming holdbacks in your business. People want to be seen, heard, and known by the businesses they connect with. If you can work through the experiences that might be sources of fear or insufficiency for you, you will be better able to connect with people in a way that meets the needs of the people you are trying to serve. Fulfilling your purpose in that way will bless your life, bless their lives, and bless your business. Of course, it takes some real vulnerability to delve into some of the experiences, especially the negative ones, that have shaped you or have become defining moments in your life. However, having hardships and challenges are what will make you an overcomer, and overcomers are game changers. Remember that, regardless of what happened or how you have handled it before now, this is the point that you can write your own story and determine how to view and learn from your experiences. As you evaluate your life and your experiences, in particular your hardships, ask yourself about weights that you may be carrying around or skills that you feel you lack. How might these struggles be rooted in things that you've been through? For our discussion today, we know that these negative experiences may constitute some of the source of your fear and insufficiency. So calling out these holdbacks, as well as the experience that started them, empowers you to break through those holdbacks. I'm going to be vulnerable for a moment and share some of the hardship experiences that I've identified as defining moments for me. When I was a young child, I struggled a lot with nightmares and not being able to sleep. This is the first time that fear really became a part of my life. As an adolescent, my parents divorced, which is where insecurity entered in. As a teenager, my relationships were extremely guarded, which held me back in a lot of ways. As a young adult, I experienced some broken family relationships that were caused by bad business partnerships. I can trace a lot of mistrust back to that period of time, which was a really difficult one for me. Finally, when I had my first baby, I struggled with feeling trapped. This is a common but not talked enough about experience. I developed some real depression and anxiety from this new experience of not feeling free to move and act independently. Now, let's imagine for a moment that I had tried to start Storywork from a place of feeling afraid, insecure, guarded, mistrustful, and trapped. There's no way that would have been successful. Thankfully, I've put in the work to identify and call out these experiences, and I have come a long way in overcoming the holdbacks associated with them, which has allowed me to be successful in achieving my purpose in this business. Third, after we've evaluated our personalities and gifts as well as our defining experiences, we need to root out the lies we may have come to believe so we can replace them with truth. Most, if not all, of us have come to believe certain things about ourselves that are not true. We might have picked them up through experiences growing up, or we might have gleaned them from the influence of important figures in our lives who have spoken over us. In some cases, those lies might have been trivial. In fact, sometimes we aren't even aware they exist at all or that we believe them. However, they still impact our beliefs in a debilitating way. As we learn to call those lies out, we clear them out and discover the truths that we need to believe in order to succeed. This also applies to lies that you've come to believe about your business or your product. As you correct those lies, you might open the door to doing things differently. Lies about yourself and your business don't have any place here. They don't need to be holding you back or getting you stuck in your growth anymore. Here are some examples of common lies you might be living with about yourself. I'm not good at X, Y, and Z. I'm not a writer or a speaker or a cold caller, etc. I'm not prepared to do such and such. I'm not qualified to go after corporate clients. I don't have enough experience. I don't have the connections I need to build a successful business. Do you resonate with any of these statements? If so, don't be ashamed. We all have lies like this holding us back. They might stem from spirit-crushing moments that we've had earlier in our lives, like those moments where people made comments that hurt us or told us we couldn't do something. For example, in 5th grade on the playground, I remember playing kickball one day and just knocking this kick out of the park. It went all the way to the back fence, and I was so proud of myself, until the class negative Nancy said, "That was just good luck. You're not good at this." That comment fueled the self-doubt that I already had about being unathletic. All through school, I struggled with believing the lie that I couldn't be good at sports. When I look back, I realized this 5th grade kickball experience was the root or the start of it. It lasted until about 2 years ago when I joined my gym. And by the way, I really only started going to the gym because some friends of mine bought the gym. Now, I don't believe any of those lies. Practice, support, encouragement, and persistence have led me to believing and seeing that I am athletic and can crush my goals. So, spirit-crushing moments can cause us to believe some of these lies about ourselves. Other lies we believe might come from relationships around us that may have unhealthy patterns. It's important to recognize these patterns so we can change our response to them. This is yet another thing that journaling can help with. As we write down experiences in our relationships and look back, we can start to notice when certain behaviors are presenting a pattern. As we already know, awareness is the critical first step to doing something about a problem. We can't control others, but we can change our reactions. Difficult experiences like those you may have identified in the previous element that we explored also contribute to lies we may believe about ourselves. Once you've defined some of those experiences, just by recognizing them, you can now call those lies into account and kick them to the curb. So, you first need to recognize the lies that you've come to believe. As I've said many times, it helps to write them down. Then you need to identify the spirit-crushing moments or difficult experiences that spawned those lies. And finally, you need to reframe those lies in truth. Reframing is simply turning these statements upside down and viewing them in a different light in order to move forward, instead of remaining stuck with them. One of the skills we simply have to develop as mature, resilient individuals is that of reframing. There's a really helpful article on Psychology Today about reframing. To reframe is defined as placing something in a new frame. When we change our point of view on any given situation, the facts remain the same, but a deliberate shift is made in how we see the situation. One example of reframing is redefining a problem as a challenge. Such a redefinition activates a different way of being. The word problem has a heavy quality to it, while the word challenge is enlivening. By simply changing the word, our energy is affected. In order to become proficient at reframing experiences and replacing lies with truth, you need to have a growth mindset, as opposed to a fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, people believe their qualities are fixed traits and therefore cannot change. These people document their intelligence and talents rather than working to develop and improve them. They also believe that talent alone leads to success, and effort is not required. Alternatively, in a growth mindset, people have an underlying belief that their learning and intelligence can grow with time and experience. When people believe they can get smarter, they realize that their effort has an effect on their success, so they put in extra time, leading to higher achievement. There are many sources online that can help you learn more about growth mindsets and how to cultivate one. Let's see what this looks like by examining the lies we listed as earlier examples. We're going to try replacing them with truth by reframing them and looking at them with a growth mindset. The first example was the statement, "I'm not good at X, Y, and Z." Why do I feel that I'm not good at X, Y, and Z? Has there been a time where I was good at it and I lost it due to a struggle or negative person in my life? Here's the statement we're replacing that lie with. I can learn how to do anything over time with consistency and determination to show up. Another sample lie was, I'm not a writer or a speaker or a cold caller, etc. We can replace this statement with, these are skills that anyone can learn, and with consistent practice, I can learn them too. Another statement from earlier. I'm not prepared to do such and such. Do I have to be prepared? Why? When and what would I have to do to feel prepared? Am I maintaining a fixed or rigid mindset rather than a growth mindset? The fourth and final element to our identity that we will evaluate in this unit is the people that surround us. Tim Ferriss has been known to say that we are each a compilation of the 5 people closest to us. The rule suggests that the 5 people you spend the most time with shape who you are. We might interact with many people, but the few who are closest to us have the greatest impact on our way of thinking and our decisions. You need to know who you are surrounding yourself with and why. Intentionally evaluating this is important. 2 key questions that help evaluate this are, what are you gaining from each of your closest relationships? What, if anything, are you giving up because of those relationships? The key is reflecting on how the people in your life shape who you are now and who you are becoming. If you don't like the answer, you get to change it. If you feel you're still looking for those people, write out specific things that you feel you might be missing from your community right now, and keep it as part of your yearly goals to find a mentor in these particular areas. Another tip in this area is to practice reaching out once a day to someone new in a space that you'd like to learn more about, or just to people in your field or surrounding field. You might reach out through LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or through a friend of a friend. However you do it, connect with one person on the edge of your network. When you do those reach outs, be genuine. People like to connect with people, so be sure your motives are pure. People respond to that connection. Here are a few other ideas for connecting on a deeper level with the people around you that encourage you, inspire you, and support you. First, as I've encouraged before, have a monthly mastermind group where you can meet and share goals and feedback for whatever you're working on. Second, as I've also already suggested, establish an accountability group where you feel safe to share what's happening in your life on a deeper level. This is a place where you can have those around you pour into you and vice versa. A third and more informal idea is to do a study or read a book together with a friend or two and check in with each other regularly to share thoughts and compare notes. There are so many ways to connect with others on an intentional, deeper level, and when we have this built into our schedule, we see growth happen. We weren't meant to do this life alone. We were created for community. Birds of a feather flock together, so be aware of those you fly with and who you want to fly closer to. And now our exercise. Which of these elements of identity most excited you or seemed promising to you in terms of being able to break through your holdbacks? Are you anxious to take the Enneagram to discover more about your personality and the natural gifts you can utilize in your business and elsewhere? Are you ready to delve into the difficult experiences that are lurking behind your fear and insufficiency so you can call them out? Are there lies that you've uncovered that you're eager to reframe and replace with growth-oriented truth? Finally, are you hungry to seek out the mentors, accountability group members, and others whose skills and gifts you know will fuel yours? Choose one of these identity elements and set a specific goal to take account of that aspect of yourself this week. Make plans to change something based on what you learn in the process. We're getting ready now to wrap this all up and bring it all together. I can't wait to see you in the concluding unit. Congratulations! I want to thank you for joining me and doing this work for yourself. You are learning more about what's holding you back from achieving the growth you're destined for, in your life and in your business, and you're learning how to overcome those holdbacks. In this course, you've learned how we can distill our holdbacks into the big two: fear and insufficiency. We can trace most of the things that hold us back to these two. You learned that fear is a liar, and it creates confusion. You learned that insufficiency is a product of comparison. You learned how to call out fear for what it is so you can move forward and go afraid. You also learned how you can recognize and value your own identity and what you have to offer so that comparison and insufficiency have no place in you. In order to do these things, you learned that there are 3 breakthroughs we can use to overcome feelings of fear and insufficiency. Those breakthroughs are perspective, vulnerability, and self-awareness. One way to regain perspective is to create a one-liner that encompasses your vision, purpose, and the people you aim to serve. Write it down and put it somewhere you will see often. One way to practice vulnerability is to make a calendar where you can check off days every time you share something vulnerable with someone. One way to grow in self-awareness as well as vulnerability is to create an accountability and mastermind group that will give you honest and empowering feedback to help you when you're stuck. You learned that journaling can also help you with vulnerability as well as self-awareness. In particular, you learned how to use the 5 whys exercise to work through the root of your holdbacks and acknowledge what triggers them. In doing this, you've laid the foundation to create long-term change. And finally, though we really only touched the tip of the iceberg, you learned about the 4 elements of your identity: your personality and gifts, your triumph and hardship experiences, the lies you've come to believe, and the people you surround yourself with, that underlie how you break through holdbacks like fear and insufficiency. Remember that the breakthroughs we've discussed, perspective, vulnerability, and self-awareness, are like muscles that need to be worked out and strengthened. This is a continual process. You might find, as we all do, that there are times you get lazy with these, or more accurately, you're tired of working these muscles. There are a lot of things in life that make us tired. Find the things that recharge you. Make sure you are getting the recharge you need on a regular basis. I've had moments lately where I noticed a need to refocus and recharge. I've revisited my vision and written in my journal, and I also went back and read through the thoughts in my journal that inspired me by reminding me why I'm doing what I'm doing. On that note, let's not forget the importance of rest. Rest refuels our tanks and gives us energy to keep on keeping on. It also brings new ideas and direction that we never could have imagined when we were down in the deep trenches of the daily work. Rest helps us zoom out and gain perspective. The practice of learning to maintain an active state of rest is important. Both rest, which can even just be 10 minutes of being still, and active rest, like going outside, painting, taking a walk, going to the gym, or journaling, require us to shift gears. Shifting gears helps us refocus our brains on what matters. We don't get lost in the weeds when we take time to refocus throughout our day. Brendon Burchard, in High Performance Habits, lists one of his most impactful habits as resetting throughout the day by preparing for the next activity as he shifts from one thing to another, no matter how big or small. So remember to rest and recharge on your journey to breaking through holdbacks. Thank you for pouring your heart and soul into this work, because it's tough stuff, but it is foundational to the future of you. Make sure to look back at your notes and what you've done, so you can use it to propel you forward. Use them as fuel and translate them into how you are going to build your next step. If you want to find me, visit storywork.co for more. You'll find our blog, our podcast, and the full strategy masterclass there, in addition to information about how to schedule a strategy workshop or access any of our marketing tools and consultation services. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. This has been Melissa Hanson on behalf of Lauren Shippy. You've been listening to What's Holding You Back? Breaking Through Fear and Insufficiency to Achieve Your Goals, an audio course from Scribd Coach. This program was produced by Lantern Audio. Executive producer, Greg Cooler.